A break-in happens every 26 seconds in America, but most people think it won't happen to me. That's exactly what Elva Markham thought, until one strange night changed everything. She wasn't wealthy. She didn't have a fancy alarm system. She was a 72-year-old widow living alone in a quiet Oregon town, surrounded by neighbors who mostly kept to themselves. But when someone tried her back door handle just past midnight, then vanished into the night, her sense of safety cracked. What Elva did next shocked everyone, not because it was expensive or high-tech, but because it was brilliantly simple. She used dollar store items, yes, dollar store, to turn her modest home into something that made intruders think twice. No sirens, no security company logos, just low-cost visual tricks and sound cues that quietly screamed, "This home isn't worth the risk." Now here's the question: would your home pass Elva's test? Or are you unknowingly sending signals that say, "Easy target"? Welcome to Better Aging Advice. This is the place where we help you stay safe, sharp, and independent as you grow older. If that sounds like something you value, go ahead and hit that like button. Subscribe so you don't miss the safety hacks, life tricks, and surprising tips we share each week. What you'll learn today might just be the one thing that keeps you safer tonight. Elva Markham had always loved her quiet routines. Retired from her lifelong job as a small-town librarian in Oregon, she spent her evenings reading on the porch, waving at neighbors who passed by on walks with their dogs. Her house sat on a sleepy street where nothing ever seemed to happen. She didn't lock her storm door. She'd leave packages on the porch for hours. She even kept a spare key tucked under a ceramic frog in the garden, something her late husband had always told her was just in case. But everything changed one autumn evening when she heard it. It wasn't a knock exactly. It was softer, like someone trying to test the door without making noise. She stood frozen in the hallway, heart pounding, barely breathing. When she finally gathered the courage to peek through the curtain, no one was there, just the wind rustling the hedges. Or was it? She didn't call the police. Nothing had technically happened, but something inside her had shifted. For the first time in her life, Elva felt exposed, vulnerable. She thought, if someone really wanted to get in here, I've made it too easy. And that's when she decided, never again. Elva didn't go shopping for a high-tech alarm system or expensive security cameras. Instead, she went to the local dollar store, scribbled ideas in a little notebook, and got to work. She used her librarian smarts, the same resourcefulness that had helped her run a tight, quiet library for 30 years, and created what she called her fortress plan. No fancy equipment, no flashing lights, just ordinary items placed in very intentional ways that made her house look unpredictable, occupied, and alert. In a week, Elva had completely transformed her home's security vibe. From the outside, it looked like someone was always home, like someone was always watching. And the best part? It made her feel strong again, not paranoid, prepared. She started sharing her ideas with friends. One of them, a widow named Jean, said, "Elva, you should teach a class on this stuff." And that's how her quiet experiment became a blueprint for seniors everywhere who want to feel safe, without spending a fortune. Have you ever had a moment like Elva's, where your instincts kicked in and you just knew something was off? Maybe it was a sound, a shadow, or that eerie sense of being watched. Share your story in the comments. You never know, your experience might help someone else stay safe. Trick number 1, the mirror illusion. The first thing Elva did wasn't flashy or complicated. It was a simple, genius idea sparked by something she noticed while visiting her niece's apartment. There, above the entrance, was a dome-shaped mirror. It wasn't part of a fancy security system. It was just a wide-angle mirror used by delivery drivers and tenants to see who was at the door without opening it. But something about it stuck in Elva's mind. When she returned home that evening, she couldn't shake the thought, what if I used a mirror not just for seeing, but for sending a message? She took a trip to the local discount store and found exactly what she needed in the automotive section: a convex mirror designed to eliminate blind spots on trucks. Cost: $4. She mounted it above her front porch using 2 screws and angled it just right, so from her living room window, she could easily see anyone who approached. But something unexpected happened. A few days later, while sipping tea and watching the neighborhood through her curtains, Elva noticed a man walking slowly down the sidewalk. glancing at mailboxes and peeking over fences. He stopped at her gate, looked up, and spotted the mirror. He stood there for a second, then casually turned and walked away. Later that week, it happened again. A different stranger, same reaction. Elva realized that from the sidewalk, the mirror looked almost exactly like a security camera dome, the kind you see in parking lots and banks. It wasn't high-tech, and it didn't record anything, but it gave the impression that someone was watching. And for someone looking for an easy target, that impression was enough. What made this trick so powerful wasn't the mirror itself, it was the psychology behind it. Most burglars don't want a confrontation. They're looking for soft spots. If they see something, anything, that suggests unpredictability or risk, they move on. Elva's mirror was doing all the talking for her. No alarms, no signs, just a quiet message: you're being watched. Even better, it helped Elva feel more in control. She could see delivery drivers, spot visitors before they got too close, and even check on odd noises at night without stepping outside. For someone living alone, that feeling of awareness is worth everything. And the best part? Anyone can do this. You don't need tools or technical knowledge. You just need a mirror, a wall mount, and the right angle. Think of it as your home's silent guard. But Elva didn't stop there, because what she did next added a whole new layer of early warning, and it jingled in the wind. Let's talk about the wind chimes. Trick number 2, wind chimes as an alarm system. Elva had always loved the soft, tinkling sound of wind chimes. They reminded her of the summers she spent as a child on her grandmother's porch, lazy afternoons with lemonade and the breeze gently stirring the air. But now, in her 70s, wind chimes were no longer just nostalgic. They became part of her personal home security system. It started with a problem. Her back gate made no noise when opened. The hinges were old but oddly silent, and more than once, she realized too late that someone had stepped onto her property. A delivery driver, a lost dog, even a door-to-door solicitor. It made her uneasy. She wanted to know when someone was near the house before they reached the door. One day, while browsing the clearance aisle at a thrift store, she saw a set of sturdy metal wind chimes, tangled, dusty, missing the price tag. The cashier let them go for $2. Elva didn't know it yet, but that tangled bundle would become one of her smartest safety tricks. She brought them home, cleaned them up, and hung one set inside the arch of her back gate. Not on the outside, where wind might constantly jostle them, but tucked inside the frame so they only moved when the gate was physically opened. She then placed another smaller chime just inside the frame of her front screen door, hidden behind a hanging plant. This wasn't for decoration, it was a strategy. Here's the genius part. Elva trained herself to notice the sound. She spent the next few days paying close attention to how the chimes reacted to the wind. A breeze gave them a soft, irregular melody, high, random, fluttery. But when someone opened the gate or door, the sound was sudden, sharp, and distinct. It clanked instead of jingled. It didn't float, it clattered. Within a week, her ears knew the difference. This gave her something no lock could, a heads up. While making tea in the kitchen, she'd know if someone entered the yard. While resting in the den with a book, the chime would alert her if the screen door shifted. It wasn't loud enough to be annoying, but it was just right to signal. Pay attention. And perhaps even more importantly, it sounded like someone was home. To anyone walking by or casing the house, the sudden noise made it seem like movement inside had triggered it. It disrupted the quiet in a way that could make an intruder second-guess everything. Elva's friends were stunned. "You mean you don't even have a doorbell camera?" they'd ask. "Nope. No Wi-Fi. No monthly fees. Just a $2 thrift store chime and a little mindfulness." Now, Elva sleeps better at night, and she no longer jumps when someone comes up the walk. Would you try this simple trick in your own home? Let us know in the comments. What kind of sound would give you peace of mind? Trick number 3, the old shoe deception. Elva had always been quick on her feet, not just physically, but mentally. Years of shelving books and helping distracted teenagers find overdue novels had taught her the art of reading between the lines. She knew that appearances, subtle cues, and first impressions could change everything. So when it came to protecting her home, she didn't just think about locks. She thought about what people assume when they approach a house. That's where the work boots came in. Elva doesn't have a husband anymore. Her son lives 2 states away, And the only man around the house is her old cat named Mr. Waffles, who spends most of his time asleep in a windowsill. But to anyone walking by, it looks like a large, burly man lives there, and he's probably just inside. She got the idea while visiting a local hardware shop. Outside, by the door, was a rack of steel-toed work boots, muddy, worn big. That's when it clicked. Elva bought a pair of size 13 boots from a secondhand store for $5. They were beat up and caked with dried mud, just the way she wanted them. Back home, she placed them neatly beside the front step, angled like someone had just stepped out of them to come in for lunch. It was subtle. No flashing signs. No fake security company stickers. Just presence. And that's the real power behind this trick. The illusion that someone strong, unpredictable, and very real is nearby. Most burglars don't want complications. A house that looks like it belongs to a single older woman is a target. A house that might have a big guy watching football inside. That's a risk. Elva even took it further. Every week, she switches out the boots for another pair, some painted with scuff marks, others slightly different sizes, but always rough-looking and always out front. Once a month, she places a takeout coffee cup beside them, half full. To the outside world, the boots tell a story. This house isn't alone. There's a man inside who just stepped away for a second. She once told a friend, "They're my invisible roommate. He never talks, but he scares off the right people." And it worked. One afternoon, while gardening in her backyard, she overheard two teenage boys on the front sidewalk debating whether to knock and ask about yard work. One of them glanced at the boots and said, "Let's go to the next one. I don't want some dude yelling at us." Elva smiled from behind the hydrangeas. Message received. It's a trick that costs nothing, requires zero maintenance, and sends a powerful message without a single word. And yet, none of these ideas compare to the cleverest trick Elva ever pulled. Because the one that stops strangers cold isn't on her porch, her gate, or her door. It's inside her mailbox. And when you hear what she hides in there, you'll never look at yours the same way again. Trick number 4, the mailbox test. Elva had learned something chilling during a neighborhood safety meeting at her local community center. Most burglars don't just barge in. They test homes first. They look for small signs, mail piling up, newspapers on the porch, curtains drawn all day. And one of the easiest tests? The mailbox. A full mailbox often signals that no one is home. And for someone casing the neighborhood, it's an open invitation. Elva wasn't having it. She knew she couldn't stand guard at her door 24/7. And while she had set up her wind chimes, mirrors, and invisible roommate boots, she realized her mailbox might still give the wrong impression, especially when she was out of town or just forgot to check it for a day. So she devised a trick that took less than a minute and cost her nothing. She folded a small piece of cardstock and wrote just 7 words on it in bold, black ink. "Smile, you're on camera. We see you." Then she slipped it inside the mailbox, not all the way down, but wedged so it peeked out whenever someone opened the lid. And here's where it got clever. Elva asked her mail carrier, who she saw almost every day, if they'd mind making sure the note stayed visible. The mail carrier, amused and supportive, said, "Of course. That's brilliant." Now, every delivery came with a silent upgrade in security. To any potential intruder, the message was clear. Someone is watching. This house is alert. Don't test your luck here. Even though Elva didn't actually have a security camera, at least not a real one, just the suggestion that one might exist was often enough to turn a curious stranger away. And thanks to all the news stories and viral clips of doorbell cams catching porch pirates, people now take those warnings seriously. No one wants to be the next face posted on Facebook, caught in the act by some sweet old lady with a security system. Elva's neighbor, Ginny, loved the idea so much she made her own version that said, "Monitored daily. Not worth the risk." It became a quiet little trend in their block. Different versions of the same message started popping up in mailboxes, subtly warning outsiders. This is a community that watches out for each other. And it wasn't just about crime prevention, it was about peace of mind. Elva said, "I don't want to live in fear. I just want to feel in control of my space. This little sign helps me feel like I'm one step ahead." In a world full of expensive home tech and confusing gadgets, it's comforting to know that something as simple as a handwritten note can still be powerful. Have you done anything clever with your mailbox like this? Maybe a hidden message, a fake camera, or a warning label? We'd love to hear it. Share your tip in the comments and inspire someone else to take control of their safety. Trick number 5, the talking doorbell. Elva had always believed in using her voice to set boundaries, even if it wasn't actually her voice doing the talking. After her mailbox trick started catching attention around the neighborhood, she began thinking about what happened before someone even made it to her front door. What would stop someone the moment they set foot on her porch? She found the answer online one night while browsing senior tech forums. A motion-activated doorbell with a pre-recorded warning message. No camera, no wiring, no subscription fees. Just a tiny device that played one chilling sentence the moment it detected movement. Warning, you are being recorded. Elva laughed when it first arrived in the mail. It was so light and simple, almost too simple. But once she installed it, everything changed. The first time she tested it, she walked toward the door and jumped at the sound of her own pre-recorded voice blaring through the speaker. It wasn't a scream or a siren. It was calm, cold, and official, and that's what made it work. Criminals don't fear chaos. They fear control. They fear the unknown. And that one sentence made it sound like they'd just been caught. Elva made the recording herself on her old flip phone, then uploaded it using the motion sensor's simple app. But instead of sounding frightened, she used a tone like she was reading out loud in a courtroom. Neutral, firm, undeniable. She tested it with friends. Her neighbor walked up the porch and jumped back. Her niece stopped by to bring cookies and texted, "I thought you got ADT." It gave the impression that the home was professionally monitored, even if it wasn't. And here's the genius part. The sensor was placed just above eye level, so it looked like part of a camera setup. The speaker? Tucked behind a small decorative lantern. No one could tell what was real, and that was the point. Even the mailman said it made him stand up straighter. Elva kept it updated, too. Sometimes she'd re-record the message to say things like, "This property is under surveillance. Authorities are alerted." Or, "Please leave immediately. You are being watched." She cycled the recordings just in case anyone came back for a second try. And in her eyes, the most powerful thing about it wasn't the tech. It was the psychology. People are far less likely to snoop or steal when they think they're being seen. For under $20, Elva turned her quiet little porch into something that made strangers pause, look around, and move on. And if someone was bold enough to hang around after that, well, that's where her flashlight trick came in. Because once the sun went down, Elva didn't just rely on sensors. She used something simple, bright, and surprisingly clever to protect herself at night. And her nighttime trick might be the one you'll want to start using tonight. Trick number 6, flashlight on a timer. Elva always felt a little more vulnerable after the sun went down. She lived in a quiet, tree-lined neighborhood where porch lights flickered on at dusk like fireflies. But as peaceful as it looked, she knew that nighttime was when people got bold, especially when they thought nobody was watching. So she asked herself one simple question. How can I make it look like someone is always awake, even when I'm fast asleep? Her solution didn't involve expensive lighting systems or high-tech automation. It came from the back of her kitchen junk drawer, a bright LED flashlight. Elva placed it on a narrow hallway table just inside the front window. Then she paired it with an outlet timer she found for less than $10 at the hardware store. Every night at 9 p.m., the flashlight clicked on, a steady beam of light bouncing off the walls and gently illuminating the hallway. From the outside, it looked exactly like someone had just walked down the hall, flipped on a light, and was still up and about. She set it to turn off at midnight, which created just enough uncertainty for anyone watching her home from a distance. Would-be intruders couldn't quite tell what was happening inside. Was someone awake? Did they just go to bed? Would the lights come back on? That unpredictability was key. She later added a second timer in the back room using a small desk lamp, offset by 15 minutes. The effect? It looked like someone moved from one part of the house to another, just like any normal, lived-in home. And the beauty of this trick? It didn't disturb her sleep. It didn't drain her power bill. And it didn't rely on Wi-Fi, apps, or anything that might glitch in the middle of the night. Elva joked, "I've got my own little light show going on, and it's only for the people I don't want to meet." She even kept a backup flashlight with fresh batteries, just in case of a power outage. No electricity? No problem. She'd switch to battery mode and keep the pattern going. One of her neighbors asked if she ever worried the lights might draw attention. Elva smiled and said, "Good. Let them look. Let them wonder if I'm about to open the door with a phone in one hand and pepper spray in the other." The entire setup cost her under $30. But the peace of mind it gave her, priceless. And it reminded her of something her late husband once said. The best defense is making people believe you don't need one. With her flashlight routine, Elva created just enough motion, mystery, and presence to make her home feel unpredictable, alive. And for someone with bad intentions, that uncertainty was enough to move on. What about you? What time of day do you feel the least safe at home? Is it when you first wake up? After dark? Let us know in the comments, because sometimes just naming it is the first step to changing it. Elva never set out to become a home security expert. She was just a retired librarian who loved crossword puzzles, tea at 3 p.m., and chatting with her niece on Sundays. But after a close call one night, when an unfamiliar shadow lingered outside her door, something in her shifted. She realized what many older adults eventually come to face. The world doesn't feel quite as safe when you live alone, especially as you age. But here's where Elva's story becomes powerful. She didn't give in to fear. She got smart. What Elva discovered, through trial, error, and a little creative thinking, is something security experts now understand well. Most break-ins aren't about brute force. They're about opportunity. And burglars, by nature, look for the path of least resistance. That means they're constantly scanning for visual cues that tell them which houses are easy and which ones are risky. Elva began sending a very specific message to anyone who might be watching. This house is lived in. This house is alert. This house is not going to be quiet about it if something goes wrong. From a muddy pair of boots on the porch to a talking doorbell that shouts a warning, every single one of her tricks was built on psychology, not hardware. It's the principle of implied presence, the subtle but powerful illusion that someone strong, prepared, or observant is always nearby. And here's what's so clever about that. It makes criminals second guess. They don't want confrontation. They don't want to deal with cameras, lights, barking dogs, or alert neighbors. They don't want to walk into a situation where they might be identified, caught, or, worst of all, surprised. Elva's tricks don't rely on confrontation. They rely on deterrence. A single sign, a single sound, a single beam of light can plant a seed of doubt in the mind of someone with bad intentions. And that seed grows quickly. Suddenly, your house looks like too much trouble. They move on, without ever touching the doorknob. But here's the most empowering part of it all. As Elva added each layer of simple, low-cost protection, she changed too. She walked with more confidence. She slept more soundly. She answered the door with less hesitation and more clarity. Because the goal isn't just to keep the bad guys out. It's to bring peace of mind in. Security, at its core, isn't about metal bars or surveillance towers. It's about feeling in control of your space, no matter your age, your income, or whether you live alone. And Elva's methods prove that with the right mindset and a few clever tools, you don't need to be intimidating to stay protected. You just need to look like someone who can't be fooled. Have you ever tried using psychology instead of technology to stay safe? What little signals do you use to let people know your home isn't one to mess with? Share your ideas below. We learn best from each other. Now it's your turn to take control of your home's safety, starting today. You don't need a fancy security system or a big budget to feel more secure. All it takes is a little creativity and a willingness to try something new. Think back to Elva's clever ideas. Maybe the wide-angle mirror that tricks visitors into thinking they're being watched, or the wind chimes that alert you to someone approaching. Perhaps the flashlight on a timer that creates the illusion of movement inside your home. Choose just 2 of these tricks that feel doable for you right now. Set them up this week. Test them out. See how they make you feel. You might be surprised at how something as simple as a pair of boots on your porch or a bold, friendly warning on your mailbox can change the whole vibe of your home. When you start sending signals that your home is active and watched, you reclaim your space and your peace of mind. Feeling safe isn't just about preventing break-ins. It's about living with confidence. Knowing that you're doing something proactive can brighten your days and ease your nights. And here's a little secret. Taking even small steps towards safety often sparks a bigger shift inside. You'll notice yourself walking taller, answering the door with less hesitation, and enjoying the quiet moments at home without that nagging worry. So, which trick will you try first? Are you leaning toward the talking doorbell, the mirror illusion, or maybe something totally different you've thought of yourself? Or maybe you have your own unique method that's worked wonders for you. Whatever it is, we want to hear about it. Drop your choice or secret trick in the comments below and inspire others to take action, too. Remember, safety doesn't have to be complicated or expensive. It starts with one small step, and that step could change everything. Elva's story reminds us that safety isn't about waiting for help to arrive. It's about taking charge of your own security with cleverness and confidence. She didn't rely on physical strength or expensive gadgets. Instead, she used simple, smart ideas that anyone can put into action. That's the real power, being your own protector, no matter your age or situation. You have that same power within you. By making small changes and thinking creatively, you can transform your home into a place where you feel safe, secure, and in control. It's about peace of mind, confidence, and living your best life without fear holding you back. If this video gave you new ideas or inspired you to take action, please tap the like button. It really helps others find these tips who might need them just as much as you do. Share this video with a friend, family member, or neighbor who deserves to feel safer in their own home. And if you want more practical advice for aging smarter, safer, and stronger, don't forget to subscribe. We're here to support you every step of the way. Remember, safety starts with you, and the smartest protection comes from within. Take that first step today.